the connectivity from here to
Welcome back and many thanks for staying with us right here on the #1 breakfast show in the country, Morning at NTV. Well, what do we know about Tuesday's bomb blasts? So first, 7 people have succumbed. Yes, 7 people died from their encounter on Tuesday at CPS and also, yes, at Parliamentary Avenue. We also do know that 4 suspects allied to the ADF were shot dead in Toroko. According to security, they were resisting arrest. Now, one of the members who was actually working to train them and take them all the way to the Democratic Republic of Congo was actually Sheikh Mohammed Chirevu. He was also shot dead. At the moment, they are pursuing Sheikh in Subuga right now to actually arrest him and get more information on the machinations of the ADF within this country, Uganda. So first, 21 suspects have been pinned and they've been arrested in that regard. Away from the issue of terrorism, there's another problem that is burgeoning on this sphere, and that is the issue of housing. You do have statistics coming in from the Uganda Bureau of Statistics that indicate that by 2025, 4.8 million Ugandans right here in Kampala only shall be homeless. That's how bad the situation is getting. 4.8 million people shall be homeless by 2025. That is 4 years from now. So what are we doing about it to actually bridge the housing deficit? And in the first place, what is the housing deficit? You wouldn't believe that we are talking about 2.1 to 2.4 million housing units. That is the housing deficit right here in Uganda. For the urban areas to catch up, we need to be building 210,000 housing units in the urban areas. 210,000 housing units in the urban areas. And guess what? We need 1.3 million housing units for the rural areas. That's what we need to be able to catch up every year on a yearly basis. So what is government doing to ensure that all this is put into play? The fact that we do not have a law regulating real estate, how is it dampening the resolve of the private players and any other investor who might have wanted to invest in this sphere right here in Uganda, and what can be done about it? Of course, all these problems are put up for discussion ahead of the Uganda Homes Expo, and I'm here with Mr. Vincent Agaba, who's going to be shining a light on what needs to be done. He is the board member for the Uganda Homes Expo. A very good morning, Mr. Vincent Agaba.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for joining us. It's a colorless development when we hear that 4.8 million people are going to be homeless by 2025. Yet we are talking about housing being a basic human right. SDG goal number 2 has to be achieved, but then it seems like it's running away from Uganda as far as achieving this reality is concerned.
No. I would like to tell you thank you very much for the invitation today. Housing is a basic need, and I can tell you home, east, west, home is best, and home is always at around the house. So when a country can house their people, its people, and people live in a decent house, there are many things you solve at the same time. Public health issues, or sicknesses, the health budget of the country goes down. Security can be aligned to housing, on how housing is aligned in the country. If you want to put cameras in different places, the orderliness of houses matter a lot, and of course infrastructure alignment in terms of water, electricity, go ahead into all these kind of things, roads. 60% of that network is within actually homesteads where people live. I'll give you an example from Nansana to Golobi, Lubowa to, for example. The infrastructure is rounding around that. It's only about 40% of that infrastructure that connects from city to city. So therefore, when you align housing, you solve very many problems at the same time. Look at the employment multiplier effect. If you're building one house and you're looking at the electricians, the plumbers, the carpenters, the roofers, the painters and everything, how many people are you engaging at the same time?
The whole value chain.
Now, we are saying housing should be a priority and so forth. That helps us to make sure that even the manufacturing industries, for example, the ceramics, the tiles, the lights and everything, all of them will be put into action once housing is actually activated. So our call is that these statistics really are scary. It's not only about homeless people, it's about also unlocking all the other potential industries that run around the sector of housing. It is key, it is important, and also for us, where we are sitting today here in the studio, it is housing.
And of course, we are being told that if we embark on this initiative to actually grow our housing, especially develop our housing in Africa, especially Uganda, we shall be actually ensuring economic growth in that regard. So housing in that regard is also one of the key factors that we need on the front line to fight this COVID-19 pandemic. It would be seeing more people spreading the virus if they had no roof above above their heads. If you're running from one place to another, seeking shelter, you are spreading the COVID-19 disease. So how helpful is housing, good housing, in the wake of a raging pandemic?
No. It's look at downtown where we have been trying to say that people are all circulating in each kubo, streets and so forth and all these kind of things. The arcades on how they are built and all the circulations, how they are done in terms of movements of people. No, I mean, the architectural designs of these buildings, they are all aligned towards housing. So how we perceive our housing, how we perceive the spacing in terms of green areas.
Yes, I got it.
I mean, the plot sizes and so forth really creates an ambience of environment that people, if there is a pandemic, when you're talking about not only COVID, but also fire.
Indeed.
How do you rescue people? How do you evacuate people and so forth? All these matter. Then malaria itself, for example, these all mosquitoes breed through swamps and all these other water-blocked places. Now, how do you manage all this to ensure that housing becomes an enabler, to ensure that all these kind of pandemics, irrespective of COVID, are all within reach in case they happen? So housing is key in terms of how we align it, the zoning part of it. These commercial areas, these are residential areas, these are high-rise, these are warehouses and so forth, factories and so forth. Where do you put them to ensure that the interaction of these livelihoods do not cause a situation of stampede in case there's a problem? So we are saying tackle housing, and most of these things will be solved. Now, the other thing which I would like to mention, maybe this is just a conversation, is that housing is the anchor for economic growth. There are sectors which we must know that are very key. You have real estate, you have finance, and you have insurance. Now, what do you do? When you do housing and property and land, then you are talking about collateral. Then collateral enables the population to borrow from the banks and access financing. And then you have the insurance side that actually tries to cover the risk and management of the risk. Now, these sectors work in tandem. So tilt one, especially the housing or real estate, and have a problem with it, then you are creating loopholes in all the other sectors.
And this is the status quo that we are talking about. There's no collaboration or coordination between the stakeholders who are involved in real estate. Yes, the whole value chain that you were just mentioning, they are not in coordination and collaboration. It's been pointed out as one of the loopholes pulling back the growth of the real estate sector here in Uganda.
So, yes, we need that coordination. And number two, if you look at all the regulation which are going on, I mean, the finance sector is regulated. When we're looking at housing finance, we are talking about the Mortgage Act. You have the insurance, very regulated. You know, the Insurance Act, the Insurance Regulatory Authority. You have the Bank of Uganda regulating the finance sector. The anchor, which is real estate and housing,
it is not.
It's open.
For unscrupulous individuals to just come and take advantage, you put up a housing unit, you raise the rent, million shillings, 2 million. Is that what we are dealing with? 80% of the private players?
And then we are risking garbage in, garbage out. So you get a collateral, you secure a property as a basis for credit lines. The bank also issues your mortgage based on your collateral. And if it happens that this collateral was scrupulous, the bank is hit.
I see. And
the insurance company also had insured based on that. So it can be very dangerous. So we need to tackle this housing and property and all that. We have also, of course, many other laws around it, the Land Act and others and so forth. But the business side of commercializing real estate and housing is still open. And
do you think we shall get our reckoning when the real estate bill is tabled maybe next week? Because on November 11th, we had the Parliamentary Committee on Infrastructure. They were telling us that in 2 weeks, maybe around Wednesday of next week, they shall be tabling the real estate bill for discussion. Now, do you think the real estate bill is that magical pill that we need in this regard to actually do away with many of the problems, regulation, clamping down on the private players, and also ensuring that we resolve the land transaction conflicts that have taken center stage and the costs?
Exactly. I mean, I have always said that you better have a football match with a drunk referee than no referee at all. You know, you have a drunk referee, everyone is conscious. That you know what?
Or a drunk security guard, then no one at all.
Exactly.
At least the robbers will send and be like, okay, there's at least someone.
This guy may wake up, and so you take steps, you understand. But now we have a field full of players with no referee.
I see. So everyone is doing what they want.
We welcome the ministry's movement. And I think the Association of Real Estate Agencies of Uganda has been also working towards that. So what we need is harmonization. Can we move in the same direction? So this bill, so that it is all private sector input is in, government as it is bringing it up, push it. Let's have at least a law than not having that.
But Mr. Gaba, do you think there is goodwill from the central government to actually expedite the process of tabling this bill? Because you've had measures that were fronted to the government, courtesy of the Association of Real Estate Agents of Uganda. That is in 2018. Shali Kongai, the leader of that organization, is actually very, very frustrated. She's saying since then, for the last 3 years, they've been giving measures to the government, but on the part of the government, they're not implementing. It's more like the private players, when they come up with these measures, they implement them at full throttle, 90%. But when they look at to the other partner, which is the government, they are just sauntering.
I think for me, it's a question of speed. I mean, the private sector is at, I said, 500 kilometers per hour, and government is about maybe 100 kilometers per hour. So the point is, I think usually what I have seen with the government is, of course, there is issues of resources, there is human capital, finance, and of course, there is a lot of bit of bureaucracy here and there. Private sector is like, you know, let's do it. Let's get it done. Whether with the little resources are available or not, let's move. So what I think what needs to be done is now coming back. So the private sector who has been moving at throttle speed slows a bit. Government who has been moving at slow moves us a bit, meet halfway at a junction and get the bill. But I think there's goodwill. Everyone in this country knows that actually the brokers around the country or the agents and so forth, people have been conned. You just rent a house without, one poses to be a landlord, another one an agent. And I get those cases whereby someone says, my rent is gone.
But we are getting information that that could be news of the past or problems of the past when this real estate bill is passed. Because for you to be an agent, you'd have to be licensed. And not only being licensed, you'd have to be part of an agency. You wouldn't be doing it as an individual. And so we'd be doing away with the quacks.
And what we are saying is, if the insurance sector can do that,
I see.
If the finance sector can do that, why not real estate?
Indeed.
Because to become an insurance agent today, you must be licensed with the Insurance Regulatory Authority. And you have all these layers: insurance brokers, insurance agents, you have insurance companies. All of them organized and working. Finance sector, to start a bank, or even just a money lending institution, or just maybe, for example, you have to go through that process.
Indeed.
It's possible in the real estate sector. So it's not a new thing. It is just something that is laid, and I think everyone should welcome it for the country. And remember that these brokers and real estate agents, they go to people's homesteads.
Indeed.
They know homes. They know people's homes. So if you don't have them within, you are risking the population. Because they understand the way you stay, the type of house. Some of them, we invite them to inspect our houses before we want to rent them out. They go to your bedroom. You're showing them, look, find me a tenant, because this is 2 bedrooms, the shower is here. These are guys who are with us.
Indeed.
So you just not knowing who they are and the education levels they have, I mean, it's just risky.
And this same person could also send robbers your way in the midst of your absence. I mean, you come, you show me your house and bedroom for a potential customer. You know, before you even leave the house, I'm sending robbers to your house.
Exactly.
Because I've seen some goodies in there.
Yes, and let me tell you, the work has been done. The background work has been done. So government should be not worried. We have the Association of Real Estate Agents of Uganda.
Indeed.
Okay, we call it now the Association of Real Estate Associations of Uganda, because now we want it to be, it's already like that.
Indeed.
Number 2, we have, for example, the Real Estate Institute of East Africa, which is comparable now. We want to make it to be at the level of LODC. Then we have Makerere University Business School, we have Uganda Matters University, offering real estate management courses at the degree levels.
I see.
Now, you can capture that. So the government does not start from nothing with the institution. Capture the Association of Real Estate Associations of Uganda, which is Area Uganda, capture the Real Estate Institute of East Africa, capture the university. So licensing will be like, if you have done a degree at MUBS, or at Chambogo, or at Makerere, Uganda Matters University, you will go for a professional certificate at the Real Estate Institute of East Africa, which allows you now to practice. And then you will be registered. For example, if we do a real estate registration board at the Ministry of Land, Housing and Urban Development, or an authority, they will capture that. And then pick the data from the Association of Real Estate Associations and use that to now have the core group of people. Now, there are people who are old, who have been doing this business for years. We call it the grandfathering.
Indeed.
Get their experience and use that experience as the prerequisite for the admission into the board.
But of course, there is a downside to it, because they are asking for 5 years experience. Don't you think this is going to lock out some, you know, real estate agents who might not have had the experience, but they do have the requisite qualifications?
Now, those guys who are a bit below 5 experience, they can actually still go for a quick course.
For 6 months.
For 6 months at the Real Estate of East Africa.
Indeed.
and do it quickly, because those are still young people.
Indeed.
What we mind about is the older guys who have been in the business for 20 years, but now to take them back to class, but they have done good job. So if they can be audited a bit, those can be pushed in. And this is a project which you have to look at about 15 years, 20 years, then you have the whole industry, you know, being embraced, and then sanity comes.
Indeed.
But what I want to make you is that this will make investor confidence go into the sky.
Because the real estate bill is one, you know, of those avenues through which many believe that we might be able to attract these investors. When they hear, oh, Uganda, there is no law, they're like, why do I have to go there? I might set up shop, and then later on there is a law that is unfavorable to me, and I'm out of business. But we do know this real estate bill is going to be coming with some very good factors in that regard. They'll be offering some free land to citizens of this country for you to do your own real estate. If you're going to start a project, yes, they offer you, they build for you the road that is leading to your housing project units, and they'll also ensure that they give you water utilities, electricity, and so forth to help you with your project in that regard. But Mr. Vincent Agaba, what else is inculcated within this real estate bill that is so juicy? It will go a long way in finding out these issues?
I mean, for me, the big key issue here is just creating some sense of rules of the game.
Indeed.
And that's key. I mean, the bills and laws are made and they're amended in the future and so forth. But we need a starting point.
Streamline real estate.
Starting point. And this is important. Let me tell you why it's important. We have cities that have been created. These cities should not actually be a replica of Kampala. They should be different.
Where everyone is building according to their own plan or their way of thinking. It should be a streamlined kind of inclusive building.
So this law, when it comes in now, it also helps these new cities now to have more better planned and physical planning and real estate alignment within their cities. And then we can talk about Gulu being a city of these kind of types of houses and being these kind of streets and so forth. We can talk about Fort Portal.
Sustainable development.
Yes. If we are talking about Fort Portal being a tourism city, the real estate within that city should be actually tied towards tourism, so that whatever is built there in that area should be sustainable with the tourism environment around it. So we should have more green, we should have more, you know, ambience for tourism. It should align with the national parks around it, with the crater lakes and so forth, so that the uniqueness of the real estate in Fort Portal is so different from actually Jinja, which is an industrial city. Now, I hear you. The bill should really now create that kind of environment.
Meaning, as you develop all these new cities, you need to ensure that the process is inclusive. Those who are already living there are not flushed out or excluded. You develop with them. You make sure that the housing is inclusive and very affordable, so that these people are not flushed out.
Because, for example, Jinja, we are going to see more houses, housing, because it's industrial. We're going to see more factories. We're going to see more. But now, then the tourism city, we're going to see more, you know, shopping malls. We're going to see more recreation activities. We're going to see more of the theaters and the studios, and because it's tourism.
But what we've been seeing now is more of private players coming up, and they'll start housing units in an area or a ghetto, and then they flush out all the slum dwellers to this side, and then increase the rent of these housing units. So indeed, you're excluding these people, and that has to change.
The real estate law comes in a time where these cities needs enabler and guidelines on how to move. Of course, with the Physical Planning Act, those should move together.
Of course, according to the real estate bill, they also want to build housing units for the people in the slums, the slum dwellers.
Yes, that's key. Yes, very key, because now the point is that these people are with us. These are our slums. We have them. It's very bad to throw away your history, because actually that history can be very unique in terms of visiting those cities. So how do you fine-tune it to make it more livable, nice, and infrastructure power?
You know, it's really mouth-watering, Vincent Agaba. They will come maybe to Zambia there, they will raise down the whole area, and then they will say, we are giving back land to the individuals who were on this same piece of land. And they will give credit to the same people who are on the land to help them build infrastructure on the same land. This is beautiful, because we shall do away with the projections of 4.8 million people becoming homeless by 2025.
Let me ask you, what is the purpose of you being in Chibuli, sitting on a half an acre of land, and then you have all these small houses, if you can actually push your half an acre value into a development that actually now you own 3 good apartments?
Thank you very much, Agaba. Go ahead.
That's the point we're looking at. So instead of me having very prime location of land in, for example, Zambia or say Kivuli, and I'm collecting rent from all these small shit houses, let me get a partner who is a business partner, brings in capital. I bring in land. Land can be valued. Say it's about maybe 100 million. So 100 million has how many apartments in the stake of the building? put some units. We are going to go high rise. That's no option because population is just escalating.
Indeed, the population is escalating.
Yes.
We are the third most, we're the third African country with the highest population growth rate at 3.6%.
Yes,
And the urban population growth rate is actually at 5.6%. That's how bad it is. But what is precipitating this urban growth in that regard?
No, I mean, you have a lot of rural urban migration. That is happening. And of course, it's not a bad thing. Sometimes think it's a bad thing. We need to concentrate populations and free land for actual agriculture and big plantations.
I see.
Yes, because if we are going to go for mass agriculture, creating wealth on a larger scale in agriculture, you need free land. And by doing that, organize urban areas where people concentrate in population. And that is very key for infrastructure, for service delivery, and many things. Now, if people are scattered all over the country in different places all over, it's also a very high cost for government to run services. So get good urban areas, townships, but organize them in the real estate platform networks in terms of houses aligned to a set so that you maximize the synergies you create with that is that if you are to deliver electricity, if you deliver water, it goes to those points. Now you have farms of land, tea plantations, sugarcane plantations running, you have cocoa, whatever it is, because land is freed. Now, this scattered approach of which we have now, you find that actually every peaceful person is building on that hill, and then it's very difficult for us to have big plantations. So it curtails agriculture somehow.
I see.
So, yes, rural urban migration is not, people think it's bad. It's good. But the point is, you must organize it.
But do we have what it takes to actually create 210,000 housing units for the urban areas and 1.395 million housing units for the rural areas? Keep in mind, you just mentioned of the rural migration. And I realize that is why we are saying housing is that factor or component that will help with economic growth. Because as people move away from the rural areas, they are neglecting agriculture. When they come to Kampala here, they do not get engaged in agriculture because they start living hand to mouth. So meaning if you take the housing back to the rural areas, they are comfortable where they are. They can focus on their agriculture. So meaning there will be more produce coming in from the agricultural firms and Uganda would become a food basket. But who would be in a better position to do that? Institutions like the National Housing and Construction Corporation Company. We've had talk about low funding or poor funding that has made it impossible for them to do that.
No, I mean, look, the institutions are there. For example, if we talk about National Housing and Construction Company, we talk about NSSF and we talk about Housing Finance Bank.
Indeed.
These three institutions have the capacity now to actually aggregate together if they speak the same language.
Indeed.
You have NSSF with all this
money.
money.
But they don't for now. Go ahead.
You have National Housing and Construction Company, which has a very huge expertise in housing development for many years. You have Housing Finance Bank, which has a good expertise in mortgage lending.
But the National Housing and Construction Corporation Company has not been funded for 20 years.
Now,
isn't that a big problem?
Okay, I think it's just some speaking, some talking. Why should NSSF go to real estate by itself?
It should have this player, which is mandated with real estate housing.
Either offload that money into Housing Finance Bank. Housing Finance Bank manages that money and offloads it to National Housing and Construction Company. National Housing and Construction Company builds the houses. People buy the houses from National Housing and Construction Company and get the money from the bank, which is the Housing Finance Bank. NSSF makes money, Housing Finance Bank makes money, National Housing and Construction makes money. Now the question is, what is going on between these three institutions? Beautiful institutions capable to do the job.
Okay, besides collaboration, coordination, what else do we have to do right now at this opportune moment to actually bridge the housing deficit of 2.4 million housing units?
Yeah. And the deficit is there, I can tell you, but it is going to happen that actually at one point we are going to be forced not to do anything else but to build houses. But I wanted to make a point which we were talking about rural agriculture. When people come into concentrated urban areas, you free the land. And when you free the land, get investors who want to do large-scale agriculture to utilize the land.
Indeed.
And then we have farms going on.
But you would need a real estate bill to be able to handle that, to do away with the land transactions and the conflicts.
No, that one can be more of, actually, the point here is that can the citizenry of the country see that actually, if I have a piece of land, for example, 200 acres, and I live in a town, But this investor who is coming, I can partner with them to be part of that agriculture.
Indeed, Vincent Agaba. Before I let you go, of course, we've talked about what government can do to iron out this problem. But you, as the Uganda Homes Expo, you're actually working on something. Is it tomorrow?
Yes.
What should we be looking forward to? Who is attending? And so forth.
Homes and Expo Uganda is now 10 years old, and I think we thank the founders. Edwin Musima has been doing a good job.
Indeed.
Really.
Good morning to you.
Edwin, we thank him for pushing this up, and of course the Association of Real Estate Associations of Uganda and all these other players have put up this together, and we are supporting really what they're doing and the Homes Expo is doing. 10 years is not a simple thing.
What's the major focus tomorrow?
The major focus is about actually showcasing what Uganda has in terms of construction and homes. You will find there all these players in terms of tiles,
What
in terms
time
of
and where are
electricity,
we?
and everyone. Pardon?
What time and where are we?
No, tomorrow actually we start as 8 a.m. Everyone should be invited at Serena, should come in and see what Uganda is offering in terms of housing.
All right, Vincent Agaba, the board member of the Uganda Homes Expo, please go ahead doing what you do, because we really need to to bridge the housing deficit of 2.4 million housing units by 2025. Thank you very much.
Thank you. For
and of course, 4.8 million Ugandans are projected to become homeless by 2025 if we do not do anything right now. My name is Roma Busiku. We've put to rest this conversation, but largely Andrew Kagwa is also stepping in for another conversation on the artists. We'll be right back.